Hi, Chatai. The first name is Chatai, perfectly pronounced, right?
Yeah, it's perfect. And I know that you can do it just like last time. It's a perfect pronunciation. Thank you.
Okay, because you know where we had our conversation the last time?
Yeah.
When was it?
Maybe 2 years ago.
3 years ago, 2018.
3 years ago. Wow, 3 years?
3 years. Incredible.
Wow.
And
Wow. I mean, it's like yesterday. I'm not, wow.
yeah, exactly. But because I remember still the conversation and what you promised me that over weekend you are going to to release a web components
Yeah.
only PrimeFaces. No, the question is no. There are many weekends in between. So
Yeah. Well, actually, we were supposed to do this podcast last week,
uh-huh.
and I had to delay it. I thought maybe I could do it in 1 week.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. I know. The last time we spoke, we were talking about doing a web component library,
Hmm.
but it was the time when people were really picking it up and more browsers were supporting it.
Hmm.
And I guess in 3 years before, I decided to go into another direction and decided to. I received the news that Vue 3 will be the new version of Vue, which is a JavaScript library,
Yeah.
kind of behind Angular and React. So I decided to go for it instead of making a web component library because I thought it's more like a business decision. Because last time we did something like this when they decided to do changes on JSF between JSF 1.2 and 2.0, there were a lot of breaking changes. Many libraries could not update to JSF, and the same thing happened with Angular when they decided to do Angular 2. It will be a new library. So it was like for companies like us, it's a nice opportunity to get into the community because a lot of people won't be able to find a Vue 3 compatible library. So just like they couldn't do it with Angular 2 and JSF 2. So I thought history can repeat, and so that we can do a quick Vue 3 compatible library. So it was back then the decision for Vue 3 instead of going web components. But now we have comfortable with Vue, Angular, React, and JSF. Now thinking about a new library for this suite, and maybe that could be web components. But I don't want to make any promises.
Hey man, we will meet in 3 years again. So we ask
Yeah,
the question. They will say,
in 3
yeah,
years.
this time we got Svelte 5. Svelte.
Yeah. I mean,
No, but
yeah.
having said that, Vue is a very popular library. So I would say business-wise and marketing-wise, it was the right choice, I would say. Because what happens with web components, after I show something about web components, everyone is delighted, but no one expects, no one knows how productive they can be. So, I mean, if you would offer something with web components, it would, you will have to do a lot more marketing and videos and whatever to show how well they actually are working. And I mean, from business-wise, absolutely understood. So another question is, you're still maintaining the PrimeFaces. Is JSF still going strong? So what's your impression just from your side? So
Yeah, I mean, last year, was it during the initial periods of the pandemic last year? So we decided we realized that our libraries are getting kind of outdated because the look and feel, although their functionality is quite there, the look and feel was not there. So I've decided to replace the design. Our idea was that provide the free themes and then provide beautiful themes for optional paid add-ons.
yeah.
But then I realized that there are many libraries that are out there, they're free, and they look much better than what we offer for free. So I decided that, okay, let's do the free ones as good as possible as we can. Then we created something called Prime 1 design. So we just updated everything. They look more modern. So I think they will hold their look for a couple of more years. Then they will need a facelift again. But Angular, PrimeNG, PrimeRack, Angular, all the three projects have been updated. But then we checked out the PrimeFace showcase. It was just kind of a mess. It didn't look good. It looked like it's from 2000s, 2010s, let's say. And then we skipped PrimeFaces 9 and we just did PrimeFaces 10, where we have adapted this new design. So the free themes also look great now. We have re-implemented all the demos, all the showcase. brand new demos. We have done the new icons, like more than 100 icons. New, they were image based. Now they are modern icons. So everything has been updated. It was a lot of work, and I personally work on it a lot because I thought like I felt like for a moment I was like betraying PrimeFaces for a moment because I was kind of hooked into the new stuff. And it was kind of left behind a little bit, so that I kind of took it kind of personal. You know, PrimeFaces is the one that created all of this company, the libraries. So I'm quite happy with the current state. And the current state is that we have open source committers as well. Thomas, Melaware, Rapster. These are the three guys that maintain the open source community. And we also maintain PrimeFaces on our side. We have a private channel where we discuss it with the team. So a lot of people are working on PrimeFaces, and I don't see that adoption is going down. It's not going up, but it's not going down. So a lot of downloads, close to 1 million downloads per year. So many companies, many enterprises are still using it. So we will maintain. We are maintaining PrimeFaces and hope to maintain it for the upcoming years as well.
Yeah, my feedback is whatever I heard about JSF and PrimeFaces, it was good. So really, no kidding. In the last years, there was nothing negative about PrimeFaces. Everyone loved the design, and they were just good stuff. And I was just curious to know what the general trend. Whether you see something like JSF become a little bit less popular, or it stays the same or more popular. So what's your impression? Is it like?
I mean, it's kind of interesting, right? I mean, React team has announced something like a server-side components. If you check out the Microsoft Blazor, they have a server-side mode as well. You click a button, it goes to the server. I mean, the server-side programming is not going anywhere. People are started to face the limitations of pure client side. You have to deal with all the server-side renderings. I mean, it has a lot of benefits. I mean, people start to realize it, and the trend will be although it's a lot of. I mean, I check out the trends from most of the job trends. People are usually using Vue, React, Angular because there are a lot of job offerings.
Yeah.
So and for let's see, for current trends, so our business model is also following the job trends and what people are using so that we can offer something. But I mean, I don't see that JSF becoming, a lot popular, more popular than it already is right now. It's more like but I don't see that it's going anywhere soon. I mean, it's just you back it up with the backend model, which is already Java, and it's just too easy. When I develop applications for maybe for our applications, internal applications, I always use JSF because I have my backend in Java, everything in Java. So it just works.
Yeah, this is actually funny thing is I work with startups from time to time, and they ask me what we should do. And what always happens is we use PrimeFaces for back office applications, CRUD, something to get done quickly. And if they have to be offline or some specific requirements, then we go with plain web components. And the feedback is always great. How productive PrimeFaces actually is. So because there are they have to get things done. So what they are doing, they are just copying, your code from the copy and paste, and you are crazy fast that way. And if you don't have, a lot of requirements regarding, the pixel perfect positioning, you are just ready to go in a few minutes, right? You can just copy the code and you're ready to go. So this is my feedback. And also I have chats with pure JavaScript developers. So, and they say, server-side rendering, what's the story in Java? I say, hey, look, this is what we did, 20 years ago. This is how it started. And even if you consider, what I'm really amazed is that JSPs, the plain JSPs are not more popular, because if you just took this as templating language, not, with the, all the business code inside, just plain JSPs as a templating language with Java Beans as the data provider. This is also a great way to have a hybrid apps, half JavaScript, half Java rendered on the server. So we could absolutely do this. I'm just amazed that no one, there's no such a framework right now, because for me it would be just natural, and JSPs are crazy fast. They are really fast, right?
Yeah. Yeah, JSPs feels like, maybe I can compare it with React, where everything is included. It's kind of merged. Yeah, with directives and things.
Yeah, and what's about Angular? So I would expect that Angular becomes less popular. Is it also your impression?
I think Angular, if I choose it from the top three, I usually consider Angular, React, and Vue as the big three.
Yeah.
And Angular is like the JSF of these three.
Yeah,
So it's
exactly.
more like for enterprises. But it's, when I talk to teams from some clients, people kind of ask me which one to choose. I mean, Angular is kind of no-brainer because if you're not very experienced in, JavaScript and choosing stacks, everything is ready. And, animation libraries, validation libraries, everything. You don't need to choose anything once you choose Angular. But if you go with React and Vue, you have to choose a router and
Yeah.
validation libraries. You have to make a lot of choices. And for a lot of teams, Angular is a safe choice. When a new team member comes in, if they have experience with Angular CLI, everything is standard. So that's people like it, but I think it's less popular than React and Vue. I
Yeah.
think that's because it's harder to learn,
Yeah.
much harder to learn.
And what I saw after our conversation the last 3 years is I got lots of contracts or clients ask me to migrate away from Angular. And the reason being is if you use Angular, it changes a few times a year. And there are some breaking changes, which is not bad. What really bad is if you do nothing, if you run NPM audit, you will always see, security problems, which are not major one, but huge companies don't care. They don't like to see this. So they don't like to see a list, of problems. So what means is the project are actually forced to constantly migrate to the upper version. But there is no budget, no time schedule for that. And this is one of the reasons why in larger companies, the Angular, it becomes less and less popular. This is the only problem I know. Because if you learn Angular, you can just go with it. It's not like, and yeah. And of course, it is, from my perspective, completely exaggerated, with the modules in dependency injection is just crazy. I would say it is really amazing that something like this can actually survive, because it's like having, the entire Jakarta spec inside a browser. This is my impression a little bit. And and React, for me, is nice. I mean, and it's stable. It's far more stable, It's not like there are lots of breaking changes. And Vue is interesting. In enterprise, a little bit problematic because actually there's only one guy who does the work.
Yeah.
And this is a little bit hard, because what happens if the guy, in some point of time, he will have to lose the interest. Is the question: will the community step in or not? This is the question, right? That's even this is the interesting part.
Yeah, I think they are now a team, but I'm not sure that. I mean, we have sponsored even the author for some time, for 6 months. So that we've kind of promoted that. But I think there's a team as well, but I'm not sure if there are any full-time developers.
You have to look at the contributor list at GitHub. There's just Ivan is the one guy who does almost everything, and the second one is a bot.
Manages. Yeah, it's kind of good thing and bad thing. But despite that, it's quite popular. I mean, it's
very popular.
Kind of
very popular, which amazes me, because if I point on that, because people ask me how I choose frameworks. And I say, okay, if I get, if I'm a consultant and a big company asks me, what to choose, I cannot just say, take this because I like it. I have to give them some, some facts. So if I show them that actually Vue is just created by one guy, it dies. And if I tell them, Angular has 2 major releases and maybe you will have to migrate once a year, just, get rid of the security problems and, to keep up with the stuff, then it also dies. So what remains is React and web components. So then it's the question of what to choose, and this depends on the developers, how to call it, or company strategy or whatever. This is not my point. So I show them the decisions and this. And I have to say, I actually like React. The only problem is, if you pick web component with lit HTML, it looks exactly like React. So for me, it would be, so why I should use React if I can have something like React without React, So this is the only thing.
Yeah, I that was my concern with Vue as well when I started PrimeVue. So what if the project dies, something else? Because creating a component library takes 1 year for us. I mean, it's just everything, you're supporting themes, templates. So it was but I think it's kind of good. The problem is that Vue 3 is kind of very, very backwards incompatible. So people are complaining, and the Vue users, many libraries could not migrate. So a lot of people are stuck on Vue 2. So
yeah. And the next problem is if you go to the official Vue page, you get redirected to GitHub branch V2. And if you are in the V2, it is almost dead. You see no commits. So you have to switch to V3, and this is active. So this is like either it is a bug on their side, but I would expect that if I go to the view side, and I pick the GitHub button, I will be redirected to the recent framework. So they don't even promote the recent framework. And what I did recently, I had an interview with a Struts 2 committer.
Okay.
And I compare, Struts, right? The old framework. And I was really...
Struts 1 or 2?
2. Struts 2.
Okay.
And the interesting part is I looked at the view and I saw, okay, I'm interested how Struts is doing. So I found Struts. This was just fun. And I clicked on the contributor list and it is crazy active. And I said, this is impossible. What happens there? And then I invited the main committer from Struts to Airhacks FM, and we had a chat. Okay. And if you look at the commits, Struts 2 is more active than Vue.
Wow.
So this is also, okay, what's going on? Everyone says Struts 2 is dead and Vue is the new thing. But what I look at the V2 branch, this is the official branch, and V3 is a little bit hidden. So this is a strange story why they are not promoting V3 more. Okay.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah, they should. One question to you is, why you need specific React I get, but Angular, why you need specific Angular integration? Angular just can consume, web components straight, right? So why you have to do something else?
It was back in 2016. Yeah, I started working on PrimeFaces back in 2016. Uh-huh. So in that, I started working during the alpha periods where they don't have any web component support. Neither the web component status was, widely supported. Mm-hmm. So it's more like timing. I mean, if I do it now, I would probably do it with the web components, and because Angular plays nicely with the web
very
components.
Nicely. So actually, it's completely compatible according to the tests. React is a little bit worse because they have the problems, but these are minor problems like how to pass data back and forth, which you usually don't need a lot, I would say. And Vue should be also very compatible with web components, custom elements, right?
Yeah, I mean, you can also use Prime Vue components like a web component as long as you with some plain HTML page. You just drop in custom elements, and Vue also plays with it. But I haven't tried web components with React.
Yeah, what the question is, so in my projects right now, everything are web components. No kidding. Mm-hmm. So what happens is we use custom elements for structure, and then we pick and choose component library. So mainly there is Vaadin components, it's a very good one, and there is a ing Lion web components. Lion?
No, never heard of it.
This would be interesting for you, an interesting strategy. What Lion, ing is a bank, and Lion are the web components. But the web components are white label web components. It means they look black and white without any styling. And this takes off in enterprise because most enterprises already have CSS.
Yeah, they're style guides.
Yeah, and if you get, for instance, components from SAP, also very popular UI5, they look like SAP UI5 web components, and it is harder to style them, to our needs. You will have to use CSS variables, which is not always easy. So, I mean, for you, easygoing, what I would do is just pick a Vue web components, white label first, to say, okay, here are the web components without any styling. So web components are stable. So you don't have to maintain them all the time because that is a standard and nothing happens there. And if you have the functionality, you can maintain them. And then on top of that, you could offer actually styling. You can do it later. Because I'm picking more and more the ing components in my projects because the CSS or look and feel is not that problematic. Companies already have it, internal projects. And what they would like to have is validation, then routing. So we picked the Vaadin router web component, but this is the only one which can be used, or only one. This is the cleanest one because you can instantiate the web component and the routing is there. So this could be interesting for you. And
yeah, I mean, kind of do it somehow. When I talk with enterprise companies, our clients, a lot of companies, they have their own style guide.
Yeah.
And the first question they ask us is, how can we change the styling of Prime, whatever. That's why we created last year, we have separated the styling from the core. So the core is just does positioning and alignment, things like that. And all the colors and borders come from the theme. And that theme designer is a separate tool now where you can play it with online, and which kind of got popular among different companies because many of them have their own style guide. Instead of overriding the default theme, they just create their own theme. So I agree that, something like that, that's the way to go. I think Angular also has this CDK, component development kit, where they just don't provide any styling. They just provide the component. It requires a bit more work though. I mean, because you have to style it from the ground up. But I mean, companies have the design teams, front-end developers that can do it.
Yeah, usually if you have a component, the component has a name, so you can apply no CSS on the component name. It would be like P for PrimeFaces dash calendar, whatever. Yeah. So you can use selectors there. And if you don't using Shadow DOM, would be optional, for instance. This is what I do. Then this is very easy. I mean, then you can just use whatever CSS library you like, and you could on top of that provide nice CSS only libraries. Yeah. This is the next thing. In the last project, we didn't use Foundation anymore, nor these Bootstrap. What we use instead were libraries like Bulma, for instance. This was like CSS only, just the CSS without JavaScript. Because what I can tell you, most of the projects are really sick of constant migration. And if you just pick CSS without JavaScript, what can break, right? Nothing. It's just CSS classes. So I see the race of like CSS styling, how to call it, not frameworks, like lightweight CSS classes almost. So you say button class button, and it looks like a nice button. This is what happens right now. And for mobile, we use Onsen in recent projects. But
yeah, I heard of it too.
Just the CSS.
Yeah, we have this. I've seen this trend as well. So that's why we have created the new project called Prime Blocks. It's CSS only.
Wow.
But yeah, they are components, but they are not wrapped in a custom element. Not a custom tag. Of course, people can get it and wrap it inside the custom element, but they're just CSS only. It's like a utility-first library where you have, classes for padding, spacing, animations, a lot of things.
But also for buttons and for text fields, or not?
No. It's just for UI elements. We keep them at the components. But with these classes, you can easily create your own button. For example, you can say background blue, font bold, text large, and then you will get a nice, with hover effects, nice button. So it's like more detailed, but the nice thing about it is that you can just copy and paste these blocks into your project. For example, right now in the morning, I was working on, let's say, features boxes where you can, pricing cards, a menu bar, a now bar, but it's just CSS and HTML. There's no TypeScript, JavaScript. There's no thing like that. So it's hopefully it will be done by the end of June. And there's also the PrimeFlex. It's a CSS utility library, and the blocks is built on top of PrimeFlex. PrimeFlex just contains this low-level utilities like spacing between two HTML elements, font sizes. Then we pick these classes and build these blocks. So I see blocks as between, components and templates. Components are like, atomic elements, inputs, buttons. Templates are the application, the giant application. And somewhere in between, you have to use UI blocks like navigation bar, menus and footers, call to actions, hero sections, landing pages, and things like that, where you can just copy and paste. I even added a copy and paste button there. If people like the block, they can just copy and paste it to your project, and they will get the same look and feel. Of course, they can wrap it as a custom element, but I've seen this trend, especially with the tailwinds becoming popular. I was kind of skeptical against UI utility-first libraries because it's harder to read. It's like a lot of classes, paddings, margins, font, for everything. Instead of writing a custom CSS, everything is inside the HTML. So it's a lot of work, but I see the point now, although still I'm not a huge fan because I prefer to keep the CSS separate from the markup. But I think people like it. So it's like, again, marketing trend decision. We are working on the Prime blocks for CSS only. It's not tied to Angular, React, and Vue.
Yeah, actually, I'm just going to the Bulma right now. And if you go to the Bulma and elements, for instance, there are also blocks, but there are components. And there is, for instance, I just try to find.
Yeah, Bulma reminds me Bootstrap, where you have classes like button and things
exactly.
Like that.
But there in Bulma, what you can do is, I think there's an elements button, for instance, right? So, and there is in CSS what you get. So I'm just downloading the CSS only. And if I say input class button, it is enough to look nice. And then the cool story is, I don't have to think about this. I just hack my code. I say, okay, input type button. Then what they have is they have, let's say, you see button is link is outlined. So I already memorized some of the thing. This is almost like DSL. And this is good enough. And the cool story is if you would like to have something else, you can pick that and it sounds the same. So I would just go to.
Yeah, I've seen that. I checked Boom a couple of times. Reminds me, Bootstrap, same idea. Tailwind is kind of different. They provide the low level. There's no menu class, for example. There's just classes to create your own menu.
Mm-hmm. And there is a similar is UIKit is called. UIKit is similar to Bulma. Spectrum CSS and Water CSS. So these are very similar, trends to Bulma. And this Onsen is a little bit less active, but it's very similar for mobile. And this is what also I say to tell to my client, we are not depending on Bulma. We're just depending on the names. So we can pick another framework. Of course, we will have to go through, through the components. But interestingly, the other components, they also have the same naming. So button is button. So it seems like, it's almost like BM, the BEM naming. And this is, for me, it looks almost like Java right now. So we are building, we are creating a logical structure with web components. And then we can, decorate everything with CSS, almost like dependency injection, right? We say button, and it inherits all the properties, and we have the look and feel. And we are, 80% of my web projects or 100% of my project talking to REST with the backend. So we just use, fetch sure. And Redux is also big actually, and this is how it looks like. So the question to you: how hard would it be to wrap any of your, I don't care whether this is PrimeNG or Vue or whatever, to pick, let's say, like calendar component and use it as a web component? Is it doable? Is it not? Or
I think there are projects already. Angular elements, for example, it just converts the Angular component to a custom element that can be used standalone. And Vue already supports it, as I mentioned. I've already, I think, recorded a video as well how to use calendar button inside. For example, you can get PrimeView and add it to next to your project as well. In case you like to use the PrimeView buttons in your web component project, exactly. You can use them as, you can just register them. But I don't think there's any utility for React, how to, probably there is. But if I do it now, I would probably start from scratch using lit HTML or something and create, components one last time and just reuse them later.
Yeah, I actually, right now, I'm already using lit HTML and custom elements in my projects. But what is lacking, of course, nice components, right? So we have Vaadin, we have UI5, we have this Lion ANG, so there are lots, Lion Ink components, so there are lots of components, but not PrimeFaces. And lots of projects have PrimeFaces. I got the question though, can we use PrimeFaces as well? I say, okay, maybe, but there is nothing official. So the question is, what would be the easiest path to use your components, ready-to-use components in a vanilla custom elements project?
Well, I think that would be the easiest one I've seen is PrimeView.
PrimeView,
because
okay.
I work on a lot on getting PrimeView work on the browser without, Webpack, without...
very good, exactly.
Without any build process. You just edit the script, unpack.com/primeng/button. And then you can just edit to your page button data table. I have actually recorded a video where you use a PrimeView button inside a PrimeFace application, PrimeView data table. So it just does paging and sorting at the client side. And it receives RESTful URL. It gets JSON and displays it. But when you click a PrimeView button, it calls a PrimeFaces remote command. It sends that data to Java backend, where the PrimeFaces parses that JSON and creates a Java object. So it was a nice integration, and you can do it. I think I've checked all the components, and PrimeView I think is the best option if you're going to use some Prime stuff in your web components projects, because there's no build process. It's just a script tag.
Exactly. What I don't have a build process anymore. What we sometimes do, we use rollup but just to convert, the incompatible libraries to ESM modules, actually. And the funny thing is the rollup is running on Jenkins or on a build process outside. So it's not even on developer machines. On developer machines, there's nothing. So we use browser sync as a web server, just to push the changes to the browser, nothing else. And developers love it. So, and the question is, in such an environment, your Prime View components, are the rendering in a DOM element, or is this a virtual DOM between?
I think they're rendering a DOM element. Yeah.
So that is not a problem at all, because I could wrap your Prime View component with a custom element. This is what usually you have to do anyway. And then you say, hey, look, that's me rendered to my component, and I'm done, right?
Yeah. I mean, they're just custom elements anyway, so that you can just add it to your web component.
Yes, maybe you should rename them. So you have a Prime View and Prime custom elements, and this is the same library, from the different URIs.
Yeah.
And every such a custom element on your Prime View library, is it a file, a single JavaScript file? What is it? So
how file? Yeah, button is in button.js. Input text is in input text.js.
There is no
bundle.
Okay, this is actually the solution to my problem, because because then I just added something to the chat. This is a BCE design, and what this is. It is like 30 lines framework, which I use in lots of projects. And what it does is, it is a custom element with built-in lit HTML and like an abstract class, but very, very simple. The class is like 50 lines of code. Not like, but it is 50 lines of code. And maybe I find it right now. It's called exactly BE element. Give it to chat as well. And what I was asked about, best practices. The major question is, custom elements and web components are great, but how to build application with it? So there was no guidance, nothing. And I say, okay, after a few projects, I extracted a template and put it to a GitHub. And so, what happens? And what I did in all the projects, this is the BE element. It is simplistic. So what happens is the component, abstract components without look and feel, registers itself in Redux and receives on every change an event. And with that event, a method is called, basically, it re-renders itself. So, and what gets re-rendered, you have to override in the subclass. So the key to the thing is the line 50 is called view. And in the view, you will have to do something like return HTML from lit HTML and write your code. And trigger view update is called by Redux. So what we have, there are lots of projects like this. I would say I was in 10 large projects with this, and community also picked it up. And the interesting part is what you can do then. You are just, you have a view. This can be whatever you like. We have a button. The button sends the action to a control. The control sends it to the server or not. So the entire structure is done, but everything is asynchronous. So even if you call blocking call to the backend, you can forget about that. And at one point of time, the answer arrives and changes the state in the Redux store. And the Redux store updates all views. That's the idea. So the Redux store updates all views, and it is very easy to build highly interactive applications. And this template, you only have to clone it and you're ready to go. So it's like and if something breaks, there are the 50 lines of code you see right now with lots of logging. So I would say, the gist is like 10 lines of code. And with that, we could implement whatever we liked. There was a huge project, and my clients really liked the idea. It was clear structure and always the same template. And we know what was lacking is, inside the view method, sometimes we need calendar component and input elements, and lots of projects use PrimeFaces. And I said, okay, we could try it, but I have to ask Chatai one point of time, because there is no custom elements. We don't need React anymore. We don't need Angular. We only would like to have your nice components. This was the conversation, how to integrate the components there.
Yeah, and I think that can be tried. It can be a solution.
And so this is a hype thing called unidirectional data flow. This is what Redux did, years ago. But what is amazing, how well it works. And also, our components are updated every time because of lit HTML in the DOM diffing is very fast. So I did some tests, with several hundreds and thousands components on a screen, and it was fast enough. So for enterprise projects. So there was no, there's very interesting idea all the components register themselves to Redux. We have one Redux store. Every change re-renders the entire app, and lit HTML cares about the diffs. And this works.
Nice. Great idea, actually. Yeah.
And there is no framework. And this is where, I'm completely overloaded with work because we are migrating from somewhere, actually always Angular. React, people are very, very, very satisfied with React. Really, and I get it because it's also clean and small. And there are no incompatible changes. And to this. And this is spend, a considerable amount of time with that. And it was just created because everyone was delighted about the idea of custom elements. But I get, the custom question, okay, how to build an app now, with backend communication, asynchronously, with state management. And I also recorded some videos there. You can watch them if you like afterwards, like 3 minutes videos, how it feels like. But for me, I always, I'm challenging my listeners, what is lacking? Why it's not, is it productive or not? And I got always great feedback, actually. So what I will try, I would like, to wrap one of your components, like Prime
I
button.
think it will work. Yeah, it will work. I hope.
This would be great. If not, 1 weekend and 3 years, I would expect at least, one web component.
Yeah. No promises.
No promises. And what also works nice, there was a crazy project with server-side events in WebSockets. Because what you can do now with that is you can say, okay, I have like kind of adapter which receives SSEs and updates the Redux store directly. And the cool story is, regardless, what was updated, it re-renders the entire app.
Yeah.
So what you can have, multiple apps, which have like a synchronization between apps. So we did some airport projects with that. Also worked nice.
Yeah, the server-side event is distributed from the store.
Yeah, the Redux store is on the client side. The Redux store is like a singleton. Nice. Redux?
Yeah. I haven't used it in an application, but I know the idea.
Yeah, and the idea and the challenge with Redux is it is like a singleton in Java with a hash map, and you have to be disciplined to do something useful with it. Yeah. And in this template, what I just did is, okay, what we do in project is the following. We have like a features. The feature could be, let's say, customers or payments or something. And every such a feature is a package, or a not package in JavaScript is just a folder. So there will be a payments folder, which will correspond either to a view or a part of the application. Like, there could be credit card payments, whatever. But there is one-to-one relation between the folder in your code and something visible on the screen. Or it doesn't have to be visible. We had one folder even which was cache, which is obviously not visible, but something like this, right? Okay. And every package is structured the same way. So there is a boundary control entity. Strange names are coming from old book, UML book. So I don't have to justify myself in larger projects. I say, okay, this is written in the book, so this is the naming done. And the idea is boundary is just visual custom elements. You are not allowed to put to the boundary subpackage something with business logic. Control is just JavaScript functions, which have business logic and create Redux actions and are allowed to talk with the backend. And entity are the reducers in Redux. So if you have a payments, you get a payments reducer. And the cool story is every such a feature, like payments, credit cards, and addresses, has exactly one slot in Redux store. So the entire application, large application, is always structured the same. So you have one folder in JavaScript, the slot with the same name in Redux. Then you get, an entry point, which is a JavaScript file, which also is called payments. So in the payments folder, there is a payments.js, which is a payments custom element, which has, like this, the major template, like the index.html, which references other custom elements, There could be, there could be a header, footer, main, nav. This is inside the thing. So, and if you have such a structure, if you scroll through the code, it is always the same. This is the great story. You can perform code reviews immediately, and you go through this. And this is the template I showed you. And what I'm proud of, that the major part is just 50 lines of code with lots of logging.
Yeah, it was interesting. Just checking it.
and take a look at it. I'm curious about your feedback. So there's some videos. You can just take a look how it behaves. But I already provide lots of workshops, lots of conference talks, and people ask me, this is actually why not? And Java developers really like that because it's very similar to the Java way of thinking. And so I'm the only thing which is, of course, I'm not doing. There is no CSS. It's just plain because it would be crazy to start something like this. I have already PrimeFaces and the others. And now the question with you, maybe I could pick some of your components because lots of JSF projects would like to migrate, for instance, to this. And the question is why they would like to migrate is because they have to be offline service workers and something which PrimeFaces cannot easily deliver, right? So you got the idea. The idea is we have one singleton Redux store, which is nicely organized. Every change in the Redux store calls all components to re-render. And one visual component gets always notified, but this component can decide or not decide, it always re-renders itself. lit.html decides whether something changed or not. And you have access to the entire Redux store, but every slot, let's like payments, can just decide to just, get the slice from the Redux about payments. So there would be the JSON model for payments. And this was highly productive, I would say, and very easy to learn for beginners because it is almost Java with the web components. There are classes involved. So this was what I did in the last 3 years, and the BCE design template was released, I would say, 3 weeks ago because I got a constant question to know how I doing this actually, because I had a lots of talks about custom elements, and we had never the time to cover more than the basics. And the funny thing is, I asked myself, how to release such a thing. Because I thought maybe Maven archetype is not a great choice for maybe JavaScript developers. So NPM maybe I saw NPM would work, of course, but I wanted to prevent the NPM the need for NPM, because why you need NPM locally? Usually you don't. And I got the obvious idea: why not just GitHub? You can just clone the template and start it. And this was the most obvious choice, and I thought about that I think 2 weeks. How to release such a thing? Has to be an NPM or download whatever, and this is like now a GitHub template. You just say git clone, and it clones everything, and then you say browser sync, and then it starts. So this is, and then you have your templates and you are ready to code. So you can start in 10 seconds without any external dependencies. And the next the questions I get asked, but what about builds? If you would like to have external components and elements, and I was actually, fun enough, maybe because of this, invited to a Japanese conference about micro frontends, and what I did there is to show, which is also actually it works, always worked, but it seems to be not obvious. You can actually import stuff not only locally, rather than with HTTP URI, right? So what you can do, you can put all your dependencies, like the future PrimeFaces web component library and let's say lit.html, Redux. Sometimes we have Moment.js or I don't know, third-party utilities. Bundle it with Rollup and put it to CDN or web server, and then all developers on your team will only depend, via the URI to this library. So they don't have to build anything locally because there is one stable URI somewhere, and you can pull the dependencies. This is what happens in enterprise projects right now in my world.
Yeah, I mean, I'll check it out definitely, and it sounds really, really, it's kind of simple idea. Yeah, it's not like over-engineered. It's kind of simple. It's just quite nice.
Yeah, and this is what I also always ask. This is why I try to explain it to you. What is missing? Because if this is that simple. What's the problem with because it works well in my world. There are no limitations so far. And people say, okay, what's about internationalization? So I took a look what React is doing with internationalization, and there is basically, I think, a T for translate, and there's a key which is resolved. So I wrote as a one-liner for lit.html, and now I have translation which looks almost identical to the React translation. And of course you need JSON with the key values, but you always need that. And what I suspect is that my solution is way slower than the Reacts or Angulars if you would perform, a profiling. But the point is, in an enterprise project, we're not talking about milliseconds. So if you talk to a database, you have to wait anyway. And it seems like, the front end people are obsessed with microseconds. And this is maybe the reason why everything is hyper optimized. But not every project is a video game, or highly whatever interactive, how to call it, SPA app with lots of I don't even know. And for me, we don't even have to minify the code. So in most enterprise projects, we just ship the code as is without any minification or uglification, and it always was fast enough. So what's the next milestones in your PrimeFaces
planning
world?
to enhance the libraries. For example, the virtual scrolling has been lacking in React and Vue. We will add virtual scrolling for tables and some lists. Plus, the accessibility has been we are getting a lot of demand, so we will add full first-class accessibility support with audit scores from tools, documentation. It's there, but it's not perfect. So we will make it perfect by the end of this year. Plus the new Prime Blocks project I think that's something very I'm excited about. We will do it for, it will be a standalone project and can be shared between Angular, JSF, React, and Vue. And once after Prime Blocks has reached some stable status, I think it's time to do something new, a new library. It can be web components, probably. I'm interested in the Microsoft Blazor. If that works with, web components, I think it should. It just uses WebAssembly. Something that I'm interested because I've never done anything for Microsoft.NET platform. Just JavaScript and the Java platform. So that's something I'm interested in. I think that will be the component libraries will evolve, but I'm really excited about the Prime Blocks, the upcoming accessibility, and the next Prime project.
Accessibility. So the funny thing is, if you just pick the custom elements and name them properly, so you have main, nav, and use button as a button, the accessibility is actually excellent. So what do you have to do
for the ones that are dynamic? For example, when you open a dialog and close it, you have to add. You can't do it with semantic HTML. You have to add some ARIA attributes like ARIA expanded. You're doing the tree components. You have to add ARIA expanded, ARIA controlled by blah blah and things like that. Plus the keyboard support. For example, I have to add keyboard support to our data table and tree, so you can use arrow keys. So a couple of when there's no semantic HTML like section now or article and things like that. If there's no semantic HTML, you have to use ARIA roles and attributes to tell that div is actually a checkbox, things like that. Plus, that's for screen readers, and for keyboard, it's you have to buy arrow keys, space key, things like that.
If you have a checkbox, this is what I saw once in PrimeFaces. Checkbox is actually not a checkbox; it's a checkbox wraps with a div, which looks like a checkbox, and then you have to do it right.
Hidden checkbox inside that box, which is actually a div. And we call it,
exactly.
The browser actually sees that checkbox, but the user sees the fancy checkbox.
Mm-hmm. So, and back to the PrimeFaces blocks, for me, it's almost like a design system, right? So what it does is it cares about the right spacing. So I could have like a vertical rhythm. I say, okay, this always looks the same, so I can create a nice looking template with that.
Professional designers did it, but of course you can just easily customize it. You just provide the blocks, and for example, you're going to do a landing page. What do you need for a landing page? You need a top bar, some fancy hero section, call to action sections, footers, pricing section, things like that. Everything is a block. We don't call them components, we call them blocks. We use components to build blocks. So each block has a couple of components, but they are copy-paste ready. They are not wrapped inside a custom element. Of course, they can be done, but we are not forcing it so that they can be easily customized. Because if they were wrapped in a custom element, then you don't have access to the contents. So that you get the content with a simple copy and paste, and you get the nice look and feel. You can also do it like an admin dashboard, the ones we provide as application templates like Ultima, Poseidon, whatever. And then in that case, we provide application shells that you can use to create your own layout, where there's a menu on the left, there's a toggleable menu, there's a footer, and there's this placeholder content section. It's a blueprint where you can pick other components or blocks, ready-made blocks. And so that's the trend I see. That's where I think there's a library in React community called Chakra. They provide these ready-to-use blocks, which got popular. Also, Tailwind has a lot of nice blocks, which is commercial Tailwind UI. And what we are doing is something inspired by the Tailwind, because the Tailwind core is like the utility library, and Tailwind UI is the blocks. That's something. Chakra UI and a couple of other libraries also started doing this. I've seen that there's a market and there's a demand for something like this. So that's what we're doing.
What's an interesting research project would be for you, just there is a Graal VM. You heard about that? It's the Java, and you can actually run multiple languages on it. You could even run perfectly JavaScript on it. And maybe this would be an area of investigation, because what I did with Graal VM, I created my own rendering engine. I just used Mustache or Handlebars. This is swappable, and provide the data from backend Java and I just load Mustache or Handlebars directly, and it renders HTML on the server for me. So you can actually combine Java, like Quarkus, with external libraries.
Wow.
And this is very small, and external libraries can be whatever JavaScript or Python libraries or whatever you have. And it's compiled down to bytecode and runs efficiently on the server. So maybe would be also interesting to you for server-side rendering. And I did it for years already, back then with Naso, and now with Graal, if we have to render an invoice or whatever. So you can just pick a JavaScript library and emit HTML with it, which was a nice hack, actually.
Yeah. Also, another thing I'm lately interested in is low-code platforms or no-code platforms. I joined a new startup. So its name is Code2 Incorporated. It's a company, it's a startup based in the United States. But the development team is based it's just our neighbor office actually. So we are working together. So it's a low-code platform, so where you can just create nice-looking applications. It's based on React, and we are integrating Prime React with it. So with little code where you need to for like customization or zero code, you can create nice-looking applications based on a UI. This is something that we tried many years ago with JS7 and .NET, where you can create UIs with the editor tool. But this one has backends and everything, validations, everything integrated, and with one click you can deploy it online as well and start using it.
It's
so
like
that's something I'm interested in.
Similar to Squarespace, something like this, right?
And I think there's Bubble as well, which is quite popular in the freelance community, because the business owners or the clients, they just maybe they want to switch from one freelancer to another, they want to change the personnel, and since they are using a single platform like Bubble or Code2, it's standard, so people can pick where it was left off. So Code2 is kind of like Webflow, but quite different in many ways. But I really like, I don't do a lot of backend, but seeing the Prime React components being used in an environment where there's backend generated everything, you just drag and drop a data table, you bind the JSON, REST API, and you just click deploy and it runs. It fascinated me, so I joined the team.
Nice. Another project, I forgot actually the name, but what you can do is you can generate out of Postgres database the GraphQL, the entire structure. Yeah, and then you only have to have drag and drop programming in the front end.
Yeah, I think that there's a trend to these kind of generators and platforms lately. I think it will be a huge market, and because development is kind of expensive for enterprise and for many clients as well. There are many people who has an idea but don't have any technical background. So even those kind of there will be a huge trend, I guess, to these kind of platforms that will make it won't steal the jobs of developers for sure, but there's too much demand on software and development, and there's not people to interested.
Yeah, perfect. So where people can find you now on all your startups, companies, enterprises? So give me some Twitter URIs or
I can just send you that as well. It's my name,
Yeah.
just Çağatay Çivici with Turkish letters. I can just put it as a text.
Yeah.
I just use Twitter. I don't. That's my only social, thing.
Twitter.
I don't use any, Instagram or Facebook. I don't have it. But people can find me at the Prime Lands, which is a Discord channel.
Okay.
There's a free invite as well. I think we have close to 3,000 people there.
PrimeLets is the name of the Discord channel.
Online there from 9 to 6. And our team is there as well. And they can just tag me, mention me. And I usually try to get in touch with our community. So I think Discord is the way to contact us and other Prime members.
Yeah, Discord is actually nice. It's a clean design. No, it's just a chat. This is what I like about it, right?
Yeah. We migrated to Discord. We were using Slack internally. Then I guess, okay, let's migrate to Discord, and we can build our community there as well. We can move the people because forums are getting old. People usually like things like this. So we are doing our meetings on Discord. We are meeting with community Discord. We are talking to our users on Discord. Everything is migrated to Discord, so it's quite nice. Just one single platform for everything.
Yeah. Who is getting old? You said. Who is getting old?
I am getting old. And
no, it's not true. we are never old,
Yeah, forum, the PrimeFaces forum. I mean, people are, migrating to newer. I call it the next generation of developers. For example, they like, Discord instead of forums and things like that. They like to use modern tools when doing development. So, for example,
yeah, but Discord is what I like about Discord. It's not like it's something clean and straight to the point. So you create your server and you can start chatting. I also thought to create a public Discord as public chat, because I do the AHEX TV once a month, so like at this. But I said, okay, now we used built-in chat, and we will use the chat in YouTube right now. But I already look at this. I really like it. I like the design. I like the idea. It is nice and friendly, and no strange things like the other. So it's just one thing and does it well. There's even video chat included. So yeah.
I have a question for you. As I mentioned, this next generation of learning. I mean, back in my day, like when I graduated in 2000s, we just read the documentation to learn stuff. Or read the books. But lately, I've seen that since a couple of years, the people or the new people who would like to get into tech, let's say, or development, they just prefer videos. And they just want to, they're looking for videos every time, tutorials. Instead of reading the book, they prefer watching the movie of that book. So do you see some trends, or do you create, video tutorials mostly? So what's your take on this? I mean, that's something I'd like to learn more, because I'm not very active on YouTube. There's something called Prime TV. I put some tutorials, but I mean, do you think should I be more active on, creating video tutorials, or what do you think about it?
I'm doing this for 6-7 years, and it is AHEX.io. This is my video course channel, and the videos are recorded on Vimeo. Vimeo is a great platform, and you can publish them in 4K if you like.
Wow.
And I started, the very first one was Java EE Bootstrap, and I think I'm really curious which year it was. It was, I can tell you right now, it was 2015, and everything is going strong. And what I do is I code an application, and let's see, the recent one was about Redux, and once before was web components with Redux, and I would like to record a shorter one about the best practices I told you right now. And they are sold all over the world, I would say, so lots of countries. And what I'm doing is, let's see, these web components with Redux, there are how many videos? I would say they're like, there are 100 pieces, so 100 episodes, but every episode is like 3 minutes, because what I do, I build an entire application step by step always. This is my way, because I like to do this. So I like to show how to do this, because people ask me,
Small pieces, okay.
Yeah, all small piece, and I committed to GitHub with commit, so there is a one-to-one relation between the video and the commit, so they can look what I did,
Wow.
and people seems to like it. I don't do any marketing for that. I mentioned this sometimes on a YouTube channel. I mentioned this, and people ask me, should you record something new? So it seems to work. I think I like both. So I like to watch conference talks and videos if it's not possible to have a quiet place and read something or something like that, and then I'm reading and a lot. And what I'm doing is I read, let's say I'm interested in a cloud service right now. So, and there's a new service. So I read, first to get an idea how it works. Then I try it out.
Mhm.
If I have a good idea, then I'm really efficient with book reading. So if you start with a book, it's a boring. For me, I cannot just imagine how it works. But if I did something with a technology and then I read a book, then it works better for me.
Yeah, same thing for me as well. I will just play with it and read the book.
Yeah. First, try it first, and play with the technology. If you have a rough idea, then I read actually a couple of books. Then I try my own stuff, and then I know it. So this is what I always did. As JSF came out, I was completely confused. Then I took a look at the technology. Then I remembered all the cycles and phases or whatever. And then if I read a book, it was a joy because this was just remembering, sharpening my understanding how it works. So therefore. But I would say both is important. The only reason why I'm not writing books is because I'm very efficient with my time. Back then I traveled a lot, so there is in taxi and in trains and airplanes I wrote the books. But now there are no traveling anymore, so there are no books, not even articles. Not even articles.
Not even articles, okay.
Yeah, and videos for me it's just I hack all the time. I just sit down, record a video, and push it. This is very efficient for me. Way better than writing something.
Yeah, I think But
yesterday, I recorded a video about, I found something in SSE and Java, server-side events in Java. So I recorded 3 minutes video and published it to YouTube. And if I would write a blog post about that, it would take me 1 hour. But the entire process were like 15 minutes. So for me, it's a time saver.
You record.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
I would say do both.
Okay.
And what I personally appreciate is a nice booklet, a small book, nicely designed.
Yeah.
Because I even bought, the Bulma book just to support them, and this was a nice one. I really appreciate it. It's like coffee table book with 50 pages, and I would say something like this could also work for you. And even you are a design-minded. What I would even do, I published an expensive book. This is also a trend what I see. A really nice coffee table book about the designs, and it could even cost 100 euros up. And people who like PrimeFaces would buy it, and I would buy it just to have it and look at your ideas and thoughts because I really appreciate, great books. It is also a trend. Many of independent authors, photographers, architects, or whatever, they published crazy expensive books which are well done.
Wow.
And I would say for you, but we had already the chat, 3 years ago, and you said, okay, you like the design and stuff. It could be even fun, to select the process and create a nice book. And I would say, I don't know how many such a books you would sell, but I mean, why not, right? And this is, and you can even give some books to your clients, as a gift. So this is a great opportunity, I would say.
Yeah. Let me think about it. Maybe after Prime Blocks.
Yeah. So how to design with PrimeFaces, because such a book would be also great for you to show how nice PrimeFaces actually is.
Yeah.
People still have, if they hear PrimeFaces, they think about JSF, right?
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
Nice. So now, when I can expect, the first web component? So then we have immediately the next, 3 years is too long, because then I will create my own PrimeFaces. With a little help of your book, So I will read your design book then and try to replicate everything.
Yeah, I was checking out lit HTML lately.
Yeah.
I really like the TypeScript version though. It's just like with annotations, decorations. I can just convert something to. Maybe we can start with something small if the community picks it up. We can just push on it as well. Maybe some sort of like 20 components, like accordions, tabs, dialogues.
What I would do is a small router, if you have such a thing, and then calendar component.
Sure.
Everyone needs calendar. So do calendar.
Okay.
And everything else is less interesting. Because even table, if you have a Redux, you don't need a smart table because the entire state is in Redux. And if you have a table with own model, it's always trouble to synchronize them with Redux. Let's say, but calendar component, everyone needs one. So I don't know whether it suits your needs, but
Okay. Yeah,
and it could be. But you have already calendars, no?
Yeah, we will just port it. Yeah, the logic is there already. So.
Yeah, and I would offer the first component like white label without CSS.
Wow.
And then say, if you like, pick the CSS, then looks this. This would be this is what Lion is doing, and this is like a bank, and this is very successful.
Yeah, hopefully it's after 3 years in our next conversation, I will have something to share.
Yeah, and if not, we can have a different conversation, something different, startup or whatever. Low code, also interesting because, it goes back and forth with the low code. We already had this phase 2005. Everything was supposed to be generated from something, from nice tools. And it works to a point. What happens then? The community exaggerates and try to use it for everything, and then it dies. This is if you do it properly, perfect. But you cannot just do this for everything, and that's the problem. What I see with that.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah, that's the one.
Perfect. Then I would say, in worst possible case, we meet us in 3 years.
Yeah.
Hopefully earlier.
Yeah, hopefully once the pandemic ends, hopefully you will come to Istanbul for the Java days in 2022 or something, and I'll be there as well.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
Thanks for having me, and see you soon, hopefully.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.